In the small courtyard, Yen was lying on a chair thinking about the future. Sometimes he envied his silly younger brother. His biggest worry was that Itaki wasn't with him. Not like myself. Now we have to start thinking about how to keep the Uchiha clan alive. His father led the tribe to take action. If it really comes to that, Shisui and Itaki will definitely stand on the side of the village and kill the tribesmen. These two guys were directly kicked out of their camp. Plus there is Uchiha Obito in secret. It is known that the Uchiha clan has a Fugaku who is suspected to be a Mangekyo cage-level fighter. Kanaha, rough. There's absolutely no way to beat this horse. Running away might give him a chance of survival, but he knew that Fugaku, as the clan leader, would not run away. Others would not allow the Uchiha clan to leave Kanaha, unless he kills Danzo immediately or fights Obito and Itaki on the night of genocide. Otherwise, sooner or later the entire Uchiha clan will have to sacrifice themselves to give their stupid brother a Megatama. Have to. You have to rely on yourself. Let's see if we can walk around outside and trigger some quests. Now, apart from improving one's own strength, talking about other things is just wishful thinking. You and Itaki, did you finish talking? Fugaku came behind Yan at some point. He stared at the direction his eldest son left, and the complicated emotions in his heart reached their peak. He probably knew where Itaki had gone. Don't think too much. Everything will be fine. Yan rolled his eyes, leaned back in the recliner and sighed softly. Father, don't be silly. You should have said this to Sasuke instead of coming to me. And, you came to me and acted sad. Do you want me to comfort you? Yan took out a handful of melon seeds from his pocket and handed them to his worried old father. It was his way of comforting him. Ha 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 ha. Fugaku seemed to have heard something funny and laughed out loud with his head tilted back. Such a sudden movement scared Yan so much that he shook a few times. He raised his head with confusion and surprise in his eyes and looked at his old father, who suddenly laughed. Fugaku, why are you laughing? Bang! Fugaku raised his head and punched the boy on the forehead, then he bent down and sat next to Yan, and spoke after a long time. The village seems peaceful, but in fact, there are already undercurrents behind the scenes. We, the Uchiha clan. Fugaku talked a lot, mostly talking about the village and family over and over again, which made Yan feel annoyed. Just when he was about to tell his old father to stop complaining, he heard his father's tone change. Yan, if one day my mother and I are gone, I hope you can take good care of your brother. Suddenly, a golden light flashed in Yan's mind, and he turned his head and looked at Fugaku eagerly. Etc. What did you just say? When Fugaku saw his son's reaction, a trace of sadness appeared on his face, and then he began to repeat what he had just said. Wrong. Did you just say, peace? Fugaku nodded in confusion, but his expression became extremely strange. Lao Zi told you so much. It seems like you didn't hear the point at all. Fugaku became angrier and angrier, and even wanted to hit the child. Then what? Yan jumped up from the recliner, turned around and stood in front of Fugaku, took a few deep breaths, as if he had made some kind of decision. I want. Destroy the ninja world. Fugaku? Upon hearing this, Fugaku began to doubt his life. He even rubbed his ears, thinking that he was hallucinating because of his old age and poor hearing. What did you just say? Yan seemed to feel that he didn't shout loud enough and his tone wasn't firm enough, and when he spoke again, his voice was raised several degrees. I say, Uchiha Hiko, I will destroy the ninja world. Buzz! At this moment, Yan's words were like a thunderclap, which made Fugaku's mind go blank and buzzing. He twisted his stiff neck and looked at Sasuke, who was spewing small flames in the yard, then turned to look in the direction Itaki left. At last. He then looked at Yan again. Fugaku's expression changed several times in a few seconds, from astonishment and confusion to shock and confusion. The mental journey can be said to be quite rich. The eldest son, Uchiha Itaki, was always against him and was a disloyal son. The youngest son, Sasuke, was not only naive but also unworthy of an Uchiha, and his talent was indescribably poor. I originally thought Yan could save some trouble. Result: he came up and told Lao Zi that he wanted to destroy the ninja world? Fugaku was really stunned, and turned around and roared at Mikato in the house. Wife, go to the living room and get me my stick. I want iron. Uchiha Yan, I think I'm too negligent in disciplining you. Fugaku cursed and kicked Yan's butt. However, Yan simply dodged it by moving sideways, and then began to explain the reason to Fugaku. Father, I know you are anxious, but please don't be anxious. Destroying the ninja world isn't necessarily a bad thing. The Uchiha clan all have some mental problems. Others may not know, but he, as the clan leader, knows it. The three sons in the family all had pretty good personalities, which made him think that they were normal people. No matter how abnormal it was, Fugaku felt that it was much better than other members of the tribe. He never expected that there was a madman like Uchiha Yan in his family. The crazier ones in the clan would at most want to replace the Hokage, but his son skipped several stages directly. Thinking of destroying the world right from the start? Fugaku was already very angry, and when he heard Yan's explanation, his blood rushed to his head, his veins bulged, and he opened his mouth and started spitting saliva. Hole. You think you're right to destroy the ninja world. He was really angry, and seeing that Yan had just dodged his kick, he started to form seals with his hands. Yan felt the murderous intent emerging from his father, and his hair stood on end. Between life and death, he followed his instinct. What are you barking about? Fire-style great fireball technique. Two voices sounded at the same time, but the moment Fugaku released his anger, Yan disappeared directly from the courtyard. And Fugaku, after spitting out the fireball, he was so angry that a rush of hot blood rushed to his forehead. Then his eyes rolled up, he tilted his head back and fell to the ground, unconscious. Uchiha Hiko. What ninjutsu did you learn secretly? Just now, Sasuke noticed the movements between Yan and his father and thought that his father was testing Yan's practice again. It immediately aroused his desire to win, and then he devoted all his attention to practicing. But when he turned around and looked, he found his father lying on the ground, and Yan used the dog clone again. So strong. This ninjutsu. I must learn it. Sasuke longed for the ultimate ninjutsu of dog clone in his heart. Yan returned to the yard and heard Sasuke's words, then went up and hit him on the head. Silly cup. Come quickly and help father into the house. What? Father was defeated by you. Sasuke's perspective was a bit odd. He didn't consider his unconscious father first, and once again believed in his previous thoughts. This ninjutsu, so strong. I want it. That day, the unconscious Fugaku was carried into the bedroom by the brothers and Mikato and has been bedridden since then. When he opened his eyes, he kept shouting rebellious son Uchiha is finished unfilial son and so on. It was obvious that Fugaku was really P************ off. Seriously, even if Yin tried to stop him, he could still persuade himself that his child was still young and it was normal for him to be ignorant. But he said he wanted to destroy the world. What? Do you really think the Uchiha clan isn't dying fast enough? Mikato was worried that her husband might get sick from being angry, so she sent her 2 children out, saying that their father was very angry at the moment and it would be better if they did not see him for a while. Otherwise, she was worried that the 2 children would be beaten. Yan thought it made sense, so he pulled Sasuke and ran outside. When leaving, the mother was still worried that the 2 children would run to the village entrance to fight the ninja dogs again, so she specifically warned them. At this time, let Fugaku hear any bad news again. That would really make you sick with anger. But 3 days later, the 2 kids in the outfield showed no intention of going home. At the riverside, Yanqing swung the fishing rod in his hand. The transparent fishing line made a whoosh sound in his hand, and the float entered the water, waiting for the fish to bite the hook. Thump! The water surface suddenly splashed, and Sasuke, who was doing treading water training, fell into the water again. After struggling in the water for a while, he finally climbed ashore in a panic. Yan, are you sure that training like this will really make you stronger? Sasuke was a little impatient. He didn't feel any penultimate effect after failing in the first stage of climbing a tree and treading water. Now his mind was filled with images of Yan defeating his father, and he was only thinking about practicing that strange clone. Yan, who was fishing, didn't even look at Sasuke, and said something that made Sasuke confused. There are 10 lotus flowers in the pond, I pick one. Sasuke? Sasuke was wringing out his shirt, his eyes full of confusion, not knowing what Yan meant by that. Are you testing me on math? Sasuke was unsure and tried to answer. I picked 9 lotuses. What's the meaning? Yan nodded in satisfaction and repeated Sasuke's words. If you're not good at it, just practice more. Yan, you're going too far. Sasuke was so angry that he threw the clothes he had just wrung out at Yan, but Yan just moved his butt and his attack missed. The clothes also fell into the water. Sasuke ran to the shore and felt numb. He wanted to jump in to get it, but when he saw Yan, his eyes rolled and a plan came to his mind. Uchiha Hiko. What if Itachi and I can't swim, and we fall into the water at the same time? If Itachi and I can only save one person, who are you saving? When Yan heard Sasuke's question, he paused in swinging the fishing rod. He turned and looked at Sasuke carefully for a few seconds, then began to think very seriously. Unlike Itachi, who likes to give people a perfunctory answer, he actually thinks about this kind of problem. Yan groaned for a moment and said, falling into the water can only lead to drowning. Drowning is because the person who falls into the water has no oxygen and inhales a large amount of water and suffocates to death. Water is made up of 2 elements, hydrogen and oxygen. Sasuke? The knowledge suddenly penetrated into Sasuke's mind in an extremely despicable way, forcing him to remember this strange piece of knowledge. Of course, he still didn't understand how the elemental composition of water had anything to do with what he was asking. So, as long as I release a large-scale lightning-style ninjutsu into the river, I can decompose the water into oxygen and save both of you at the same time. Sasuke was shocked, his hair stood up in fear, and his mind flashed back to the tragic scene of himself being electrocuted by lightning style in the water. Uchiha Hiko, are you a devil? We are brothers. Yan shrugged, glanced at the boy, and sighed in his heart. Mock up. You're still playing the same trick on me. Sasuke's plan failed, and after calming down a little, he continued to question Yan. Then tell me, between Itachi and I, who would you choose? You. This time, Yan answered without any hesitation. This question has never been a multiple-choice question for him. Sasuke was stunned by Yan's answer for a few seconds. After a long time, he suddenly came close to Yan and spoke in a voice as soft as a mosquito. Then, can you teach me how to be a dog clone? Thumpyan really couldn't control himself when he heard this name. He put one hand on the boy's back and pushed him directly into the river. Practice treading water well. If you don't practice well today, you won't have dinner. Sasuke popped his head out of the water and shouted through gritted teeth. Yan, you lied to me. I will never believe you again. Just now he was very happy for a while when he heard Yan choose him, but then this damn guy pushed him into the river. Uchiha Hiko. What a cold-blooded guy. Sasuke said he was very angry and he would not pay attention to Yan from today on. Hey, you too. This is my territory. At this moment, a yellow-haired kid suddenly jumped out from the bushes, pointed at Yan and Sasuke and started shouting. He carried a simple and worn fishing rod on his shoulder, which was in stark contrast to the special fishing gear he bought from the store. It looks particularly shabby. The raised hand also held a battered bucket, which in terms of quality was somewhere between battle-damaged and battered. Whether it will leak is another matter. Uzumaki Naruto shouted and also noticed the fishing rod in Yan's hand and the bucket beside him. When I saw the boy struggling in the river again, I found that we looked similar, and a feeling of inferiority suddenly emerged in my heart. Family, very nice. Naruto awkwardly hid the makeshift fishing rod and old bucket behind him, still shouting at the two. This is my territory. If you want to go fishing upstream. There are lots of fish there. Sasuke immediately became unhappy when he heard this. Even though he always quarrels with Yan and acts like a spoiled child with his brother at home, he never treats other people nicely outside. Sasuke jumped out of the water, tapped his feet twice, and stood on the water. He first quickly put on his shirt, patted the inconspicuous Uchiha clan emblem on his body twice, and then looked up in Naruto's direction. Then he asked the question in an arrogant manner, looking down on others. Hello, who do you think you are, kid? Taking a picture of the Uchiha clan emblem is to show the background, standing on the water surface is to inadvertently show strength, and asking arrogant questions is to counterattack against the yellow-haired man's previous words. But Yan can see. At this moment, Sasuke didn't dare to move, as he would fall into the water if he moved. Sasuke, that's enough. Pack your things and go back. Yan stood up and dusted himself off, and dropped the fishing gear and the bucket containing the fish at his feet. He then pulled Sasuke from the water to his front, preventing Sasuke from embarrassing himself in front of outsiders. Snort. Sasuke snorted disdainfully and followed Yan back home. It wasn't until they were 10 meters away that Naruto behind them reacted. He hurriedly picked up the heavy bucket and the expensive-looking fishing rod and stumbled towards the two men. Hey, wait a minute, you forgot to take your stuff. Yan raised his hand and waved gently to Naruto behind him. No, if you want it, take it. If you don't want it, just throw it away. However, just as he finished speaking, the system's voice rang out simultaneously, almost causing Yan to stagger. Bite, trigger mission, you, a scholar, meet a vixen in distress. Hiko, I'm sorry. Trigger mission, you, a scholar, meet a vixen in distress. Task, on the way to Beijing for the imperial examination, you met an injured vixen. Please take good care of it. Reward, the fox spirit's return of gratitude. The voice of the system made Yan stop in his tracks. His face turned gloomy and his brain started to work rapidly. Okay. You said we were going to talk about the world of cultivating immortals, but now you come up and give me some of the same tricks as strange stories from a Hyuxia studio, right? The fox returns. You should change someone else. And, I'm not a scholar. I'm only 6 years old. How the hell am I going to take the imperial examination in the ninja world? Sasuke, who was following behind, noticed that Yan stopped and was about to ask something, but when his eyes fell on Yan's head, he was shocked. Hiko, why is there smoke coming out of your head? Sasuke was extremely worried. He swore he had never seen anything like this before and expressed his deep concern for Yan. I'm fine. Go home. Go home now. Yan's eyes caught sight of Naruto staggering towards him not far away, and suddenly images of Vixen in various movies and TV dramas flashed through his mind. The overlapping figures of the two made Yan, who was only 6 years old, have wrinkles all over his face and a look of disgust all over his body. This task, I'd rather not do it. The fox repays the favor. He doesn't want it. Yan pulled Sasuke up, quickened his pace, and quickly evacuated the scene. The two walked so fast that Naruto, who was behind them, could not catch up at all and could only watch their figures get smaller little by little. Naruto lifted the bucket with both hands with great effort, and looked at the bucket full of fish, and couldn't help but feel a lump in his throat. He gritted his teeth, put down the bucket and fishing rod, raised his hand and shouted at the two disappearing figures. He didn't care at all whether the two of them heard it or not. "Hello, big brother, you stinky b*******************. Thanks for the fish. I will definitely repay you. I, Uzumaki Naruto, will always keep my word when it comes to the ninja way." Sasuke and Yan finally heard it, and the two brothers moved almost synchronously, but they missed a step and would have fallen to the ground if they hadn't supported each other. Hateful. That kid, Yan, you shouldn't have given him the things. Sasuke was not only angry at the other party for giving him a nickname, but he was also angry at Yan for taking the initiative to give the thing to the yellow-haired kid, because he bought that fishing gear. Besides, Sasuke was very dissatisfied with the way that guy addressed him. Whenever that guy called him a stinky guy and didn't call him big brother, he wouldn't do that. Yes, I regret this too. Go up and come back. Yan rolled his eyes and stared at the prompt that popped up on the system. He had lost all his strength and means. Bite congratulations to the host for completing the task. Reward, the fox repays the favor. The fox returns a favor. The plot of meeting the fox spirit at night has been unlocked. At this moment, Yan really wanted to say a few words to his system. Brother, please help me. Can you change the world for me and release this reward again? Even if the vixen was someone else, he would at most just have to bite the bullet and accept this damn reward. Yan's words directly caused Sasuke's strong dissatisfaction. Why? You gave me the things, and now you regret it. Why do you want me to go and ask for them back? Sasuke kept glancing back as he spoke, and finally turned his head away and snorted, pretending not to care. Never mind, I don't care. Although there was disgust in Sasuke's expression, Yan could see that the boy felt more sympathy. I'm just embarrassed to express this feeling. Yan saw Sasuke still looking in Naruto's direction and burst out laughing. Tsundere brat. I don't. Sasuke's voice suddenly rose several pitches, still adhering to the principle that loudness can cover up guilty conscience. The yellow-haired kid's words just now were a bit arrogant, but his implication was that he was telling them that there were more fish upstream. How to say? Sasuke had never seen such a dumb idiot. The guy's malnutrition and the signs of his clothes being torn in many places reminded him of the many orphans in the village. The same is true for them. Even though the situation was so bad, he still wanted to tell them where there were a lot of fish. Madness. The two brothers walked towards home. During the walk, Sasuke suddenly sighed to Yan, as if he had thought of something. Yan, you said, it would be great if we could grow up quickly. This way, Dad won't be so tired. Also, when you grow up, you can learn a lot of ninjutsu and become very, very strong. Do you remember your father's 3 Megatama that day? Maybe we can have that kind of great power, too. Sasuke turned into a chatterbox along the way, talking non-stop, talking about several powerful ninjutsu and illusion techniques within the clan, as well as the power of the Sharingan. While feeling longing for it, he also told Yan that it would be great if he could also have a dog clone. Yan listened very carefully all the way and did not say a word to interrupt Sasuke's imagination of the future. However, when they were almost home, Yan put his hands in his pockets, looked up at the sun for a few seconds, and said to his naive and stupid brother with a little sadness, Sasuke, sometimes growing up isn't a good thing. You will have a lot of troubles and experience a lot of setbacks. At the end, he even wanted to tell Sasuke that being strong or not does not depend on age. But considering that these words might easily upset the boy, he kept it in his heart and did not tell him. Tisk, Yan, are you imitating your father and Nissan in talking? It's boring. Sasuke, who was still young, was completely unable to understand Yan's words. He just felt that time passed very slowly, so slowly that even when he was 6 years old, he felt a little bored. When the two brothers returned home and it was getting dark, the system kept reminding them that they could go to the vixen's house to trigger the subsequent tasks. Yan sneered at this. His head was aching badly now. He thought there was a bug in the system and it was outrageous enough that he thought he was in the world of immortal cultivation. But after the Liaison mission just now, he suddenly realized that there was not a bug in the system, but a system running on a bug. It's really hard to hold. As for the subsequent tasks, not to mention whether the fox's mission of repaying a favor was legitimate or not, even for a son of the Uchiha clan leader, going alone at night to look for 9 tails Jinchuriki was simply courting death. In any case, Yan does not plan to continue doing the tasks in this Liao Zai series. Never mind. Since the system can trigger the task, it means that I still have a chance. After Yan and Sasuke returned home, time seemed to have been fast-forwarded, and a week had passed without them noticing. Itaka seemed to have received another mission, but Yan still did not forget to perform routine divination when this guy left. I never saw him again after that. And the silly brother Sasuke. After learning that he could not cultivate the dog clone, the unyielding boy still found it hard to believe the cruel reality and ran to the Inyazuka clan's kennel for several days in a row. I walked around the entire Konoha, from the Inyazuka clan's kennel to the Nara clan's pharmacy and the Akamike clan's barbecue restaurant, but no new mission was triggered. That day, Yan went to the kennel to look for Sasuke as usual. When passing by the flower shop, the familiar prompt sound of the system unexpectedly rang in his mind. Bite trigger the mission. Mission, the end of the world is coming, and zombies are about to attack your back garden. Please plant sunflowers before dark and collect sunlight to resist the approaching zombies. Reward special sunflower *2. Yan thought he could accept all abstract tasks from the system, but he did not expect the system to do this. He held his breath, walked quickly to the wall, supported himself with his hands, and began to breathe heavily. Okay. Plants versus zombies, right? There wasn't much description about the items rewarded for the mission, but Yan could roughly guess that this sunflower could collect sunlight. What is the effect? Perhaps we need to complete this task first and then conduct experiments to find out. He no longer expected the system to issue any serious tasks. Tired. Ino, who was watering the flowers in front of the flower shop, turned her head and glanced at the boy not far away and couldn't take her eyes off him. She was so engrossed in watching that she even forgot she was still watering the potted plants. The water sprayed from the kettle filled the entire potted plant, and the muddy water that seeped out wet Ino's shoes. Your flowers are dying. A strange voice sounded, which frightened Ino and made her scream. He couldn't help shaking the kettle in his hand. Although the water in it was poured out, some water drops still splashed all over Yan. Ino reacted and saw that the boy's clothes were wet, and her ears turned red instantly. I kept blaming myself for the stupid things I had done. The whole person is in a state of shame and embarrassment. Guessed. I'm so sorry. I really didn't mean it. Ino spoke with a hint of tears in her voice, and in a panic she took out a handkerchief from her body and wiped Yan's wet clothes. I'll do it myself. Yan's mouth twitched, and he first grabbed Ino's wrist, then pulled the handkerchief out of her hand. Such behavior instantly made Ino lower her head in embarrassment, as if looking for a crack in the ground so that she could crawl into it. But he still gritted his teeth and bowed and apologized to the other party. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Yan Xiao wiped the water stains on his body, walked past Ino and went straight to a pot of sunflowers in the corner. Are there any sunflowers? I want a lot. It would be even better if you could help me with the transplant. The system task is to plant sunflowers in the backyard before dark. To be on the safe side, Yan decided to transplant them. After all, I finally came across a relatively normal task, and I have to get the reward first no matter what. Is it useful? Come on. Here, what are you doing standing outside the door? Just as Ino was about to answer, the mother in the store, with her keen business sense, instantly noticed the big customer at the door. Uchiha clan emblem. He is a big dog owner. Yan turned his head and looked inside the store. The proprietress, wearing an apron, came up and pulled her daughter aside. Then he said with a smile, "Sir, I wonder how much you mean by a large amount." The whole yard. Yamanaka Rino opened her eyes slightly, and sighed in her heart that Uchiha was indeed a big dog buyer. Even the way he bought flowers was different from the normal way of thinking. No problem, I don't know. Just help me transplant the sunflowers in the backyard before tonight. Yan spoke first, then waved to Ino who was hiding behind the proprietress and made a writing gesture. Ino was stunned for a few seconds, then quickly took out a pen and paper from her body and timidly handed them to Yan. However, when Yan was writing, she secretly raised her head and wrote down every word the boy wrote with a sly look. This address, is it the home of the Uchiha clan leader? As if she had discovered some secret, Ino took the note handed to her and kept it carefully. Even after the other party left, she stood at the door and stared at the boy's back. Since you are curious, why don't you go up and ask the person's name? Rino said jokingly as she stood beside her daughter, causing Ino to blush again. I hate it so much. I'll know when I send the flowers later. Ino couldn't meet her mother's gaze and turned to go to the warehouse to arrange the delivery. At this time, the Umbu ninjas who were hiding in the eaves silently took out their pens and began to record on the scroll. August 28th, sunny. Uchiha clan leader's second son, Uchiha Yan, came to a flower shop in Yamanaka to buy a large number of sunflowers. The purpose is unknown, the meaning is unknown. Threat level, see, Sasuke's trajectory is also recorded above. August 28th, sunny. Uchiha Sasuke, the third son of the Uchiha clan leader, once again ran to the Inyazuka clan kennel, reportedly to learn dog clones. After a week of observation, the Uchiha clan has been ruled out of any connection with the Inyazuka clan. It has been determined that Uchiha Sasuke has a brain disease. Threat level, B. The Umbu ninjas began to monitor the two brothers from the day they met Nine-Tails Jinchuriki. Whenever the two of them went out, the Umbu ninjas would follow them and record everything they did. The result: these Umbu ninjas who were performing surveillance missions were very tired. From the first day, these Umbu ninjas were full of confidence and prepared to do something big to find evidence that the Uchiha clan was preparing to rebel. Those two little brats, one wanders around Konoha village all day, and the other always runs to the kennel. His behavior is weird. At first, the Umbu ninja assigned to monitor them thought that the two children were being instigated by Fugaku and were secretly plotting something big. But after observing for a few days, the Umbu ninjas have begun to doubt their lives. Besides strolling around the village, Uchiha Yan was in front of many shops such as taverns and ramen stalls. He seemed to be angry and was shouting something with a red face. "Hurry up and give me the task. NPC, please send the task quickly. Sien task, start," and other strange words that they couldn't understand. And that Uchiha Sasuke. He spent the whole day pondering ninjutsu related to dogs, and whenever he had free time, he would run to the Inyazuka family's kennel. These Umbu ninjas are really a bit boring. You and Uchiha, go study Sharingan and Shuriken. Running to the kennel all day, there's something wrong with you. In short, after a week of surveillance by the Umbu ninjas, they all came to the same conclusion. Fugaku's two sons, there's something wrong with your brain. Let's retreat. There's no need to waste time on these two stupid sons of Fugaku. Go back and report. The leader of the Umbu team sighed, and at a command, the other ninjas disappeared from the roof. In the afternoon, with the help of her helpers, Ino arrived at the gate of the Uchiha clan with a large number of sunflowers. She stood at the door for a long time, staring at the door handle for a long time. It took her a long time to muster up the courage, raise her hand and knock gently on the door a few times. Is anyone there? Perhaps the knock on the door was too soft, or perhaps her voice was too soft, because after 10 minutes, there was no response from the person inside. Ino glanced back at the closed door, then back at the pile of sunflowers. Suddenly I felt at a loss. Just as she was about to give up and go home to ask her mother for help, a noise was heard at the corner of the street. "Yan, let me go, I'll be able to learn that jutsu soon." In the Uchiha tribe's land, Yan held a bouquet of carnations in one hand, pulled Sasuke's arm with the other, and walked towards the house with an expressionless face. The bouquet of carnations in his hand was specially brought back by him as a gift for his mother. "Since I have bought so many sunflowers, it is not a big deal to give my mother a bouquet of carnations. This bouquet of flowers cost nothing. The boss lady gave it to him for free as he was a big customer." Yan didn't even forget his father and was ready to give him the important task of paying the bill, so that the old father can have a sense of participation. Sasuke leaned back and kept lying back. "Yan, you said you wouldn't care about me." Yan had said before that he would not disturb him while he was practicing in the kennel. "We also agreed to go home before dinner. It's still early now, but it's a little after 2 p.m., and there are still at least 3 hours until dinner time." Sasuke was naturally angry when his training plan was interrupted, and his stubborn temper suddenly came up. He struggled hard, but he was not as strong as Yan, and his legs, which supported his body, left a long trail on the road. "Wait a moment." Yan looked at Ino standing at the door apologetically, and suddenly loosened his grip on Sasuke's hand. Sasuke was already falling backwards, and Yan's loosening of his grip caused him to flip 180 degrees. If he hadn't reacted quickly and nimbly, and adjusted himself to a less painful position when his head was about to hit the ground, he estimated that if he was hit on the head like that, he would probably become stupid. Sasuke got up from the ground, pointed angrily at Yan who was opening the door, and began to express his daily annoyance, just like Yan's routine soul-searching of Itaki. "Hiko, I hate you." Faced with this situation, Ino looked very embarrassed standing in front of the main character, as she had never encountered a situation where brothers quarreled, especially twins. The corner of her mouth twitched slightly. "Your brother is quite cute." Sasuke exploded when he heard what the yellow-haired woman said. "Yellow hair, I hate you too. And, we, the Uchiha clan, you are not welcome." Compared to what he said to Yan just now, Sasuke's words to the yellow-haired Ino were quite cold. "Ignore him." Yan turned the key and pushed open the door without even looking at Sasuke behind him. Ino originally wanted to liven up the awkward atmosphere and formally introduce herself. Who knew that sentence would anger Yan's brother? I'll go bring the flowers in." Ino said this and turned around and ran to move the sunflowers piled on the road, as if doing so would make her feel better about the self-blame in her heart. Sasuke, help carry the flowers in. Yan ignored Sasuke who was standing there angrily, and even started to order him to do some work. Between the elder brother and the younger brother, there was no brotherhood, just that of a farmer and his slaves. That being said, Yan was worried that he could not keep up with the progress, so he formed seals with his hands and used the shadow clone technique. Bang, bang, bang. Surrounded by smoke, 3 clones appeared beside Yan. After a brief eye contact between the original body and the clone, Shadow Clone quickly understood, rolled up his sleeves and began to help. Shadow Clone. Ino, who heard the noise and saw this scene, looked at Yan with a little surprise, but she was more secretly happy in her heart. A rumor was circulating among the girls, whether true or not. It is said that the more beautiful the Uchiha are, the stronger their talent is. Good looking equals genius. Originally Ino thought this rumor was nonsense. Now it seems, it makes a lot of sense. Snort, it's just a shadow clone. What's so surprising about that? Sasuke raised his chin slightly, snorted disdainfully, then formed a seal and cast Shadow Clone. This technique was particularly demanding on Chakra, as he had only just learned the ninjutsu after completing his training in climbing trees and treading water. He had a very bad impression of the yellow-haired woman, and using the Shadow Clone technique would not help. The main purpose is to make this short-sighted yellow-haired boy realize that there is an insurmountable gap between ordinary people and geniuses. Sasuke has only 2 Shadow Clone, and when he helps Ino carry flowers, he always has a vaguely mocking smile on his face. Looking at his pretentious brother, Yen said that he could easily control him with a little trick. Hiko, Sasuke, are you guys back? The noise outside startled Mikato, who was resting in the house, and she called the names of her 2 children softly. Mother! Sasuke rushed into the house holding sunflowers, saw his mother, greeted her, and ran to the backyard. But he had only taken 2 steps when he saw his majestic father, blocking his way. Father, father. Seeing that his father's behavior was not as casual as when he met his mother, Sasuke quickly put down the flowers in his hand and bowed to greet his father. Fugaku hummed softly with a nasal sound, as a response to his youngest son. His eyes caught a glimpse of the golden color in the yard, and then saw the large patch of sunflowers outside the door. His brows instantly frowned, and he looked in Yan's direction with a stern face. Ino, who happened to look out, saw Fugaku frozen in place, looking so ferocious that he seemed like he could eat several children in one bite. Yan had long been accustomed to this, he even suspected that his father's face was natural. He stepped over the threshold, picked up the bouquet of flowers and handed it to his mother, who was standing at the door and still looking at the sunflowers, and thought, "Mom, this is for you." To be honest, Yan was a little embarrassed to express his feelings so directly. He stuffed the flowers into Mikato's arms, turned around and let Ino, who was still standing there, out. Pretend to be very busy. Mikato looked down at the bouquet of carnations, the tenderness in her eyes almost seeping out. This child, she whispered softly, her voice choked with sobs. Really? Glancing at Sasuke, who was covered in mud again, Mikado sighed silently in his heart, secretly lamenting the child's ignorance. She had actually discovered it a long time ago, but was just too embarrassed to ask. At the back, the expressions of Fugaku and Sasuke, both father and son, darkened almost at the same time. Sasuke couldn't even look at his mother, because he realized that he didn't bring anything back for his mother and felt ashamed. Snort! Fugaku snorted again, expressing his strong dissatisfaction. He no longer even had the desire to stay and ask Yan why he bought so many sunflowers. He turned and left. However, at this moment, Yan's voice was heard outside the door. Father! This call made Fugaku return to his original position. He coughed twice and solemnly straightened his collar. Then, show your father's authority. There was a hint of a smile on his face, and his expression was solemn and dignified, as if he was waiting for something. Sunflowers. I bought them at the flower shop. Please help me settle the bill. The tone of Yan's voice was no different from when he spoke with his old father in the past, but to Fugaku, these words sounded colder and more painful than the ice chips blown by the cold wind. Get out. Oh, husband, why are you being so mean to the child? Mikato naturally couldn't bear to watch it, so she waved to Yan with a smile on her face, and kept waving the bouquet in her hand in front of Fugaku, as if she had just won a battle. Proud and arrogant. Yan, your mother will pay for you.